A very interesting development at the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, whose implications are not entirely clear yet, but a senior FBI agent, this is a guy named Tim Tibblet, T-H-I-B-A-U-L-T, Tim Tibblet, has been escorted out of FBI headquarters and apparently is being either removed, fired, maybe asked to resign, or maybe submitted his own resignation. I mean, there's a little bit of a shading as to which of those options it is, but what is not being shaded is that this guy is out of the FBI building. This was, by the way, the story was broken by the reporter John Solomon and then picked up and further reported by many others, including the Washington Times. And evidently, this guy, Tim Tibblet, is the guy who suppressed the Hunter Biden story. Now, he didn't suppress it all by himself, but he was one of the key figures in blocking the Hunter Biden story from getting out prior to the 2020 election. So let's think about that. This is the FBI actively involved in election interference and in suppressing damaging information against Biden. Now, there are several elements to this story. We know recently, Mark Zuckerberg, by the way, the founder of Facebook, now called Meta, Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan's show and he said it was the FBI that pressured Facebook not to highlight the Hunter Biden story, to downplay it, to repress it. And Zuckerberg says, we didn't shut it down completely, but we did give it less traction. We did sort of pull it back. And think about it. It's the FBI, the supposedly neutral police agency of the government that is now working with these social media platforms, not to fight misinformation, but to fight accurate information that would be damaging to the Democrats. So the FBI seems to be now a little bit like the KGB, kind of a fully owned police arm of the Democratic Party. Now, this fellow Tibblet was apparently posting all kinds of political statements against Trump and against the Republicans while he was leading the public corruption unit of the FBI. He is also apparently a guy who was telling other FBI agents, don't open the Hunter Biden laptop. Let's remember that the FBI had the Hunter Biden laptop and has had it for a while. So long before reporting came out from Miranda Devine and others, what's on the laptop, the FBI had it. They could have gone through it. They could have set up a whole operation because there's a lot of data on the laptop. But this fellow Tibblet, perhaps among others, put out the word as senior FBI agents, this is not something we really want to go into right now. And at the very least, they wanted to push any investigation of the laptop post the 2020 election. It also seems, this I'm getting from John Sullivan, that FBI whistleblowers have told both Jim Jordan and Chuck Grassley, so Jim Jordan in the House and Chuck Grassley in the Senate, that this Tibblet fellow concealed the partisan nature of the evidence that he was putting forward to Christopher Wray and Merrick Garland to open their investigation into Trump. So he was, in other words, he's pushing partisan. This is very reminiscent, by the way, of the Steele dossier. In the case of the Steele dossier, as you know, this was funded, bankrolled, really set up by the Clinton campaign. The FBI was in on it. They then used this fake dossier to open an investigation. So here is Tibblet again, using partisan talking points, if you will, to push for an investigation. There's some question about whether there's even bogus information that was used to justify the Mar-a-Lago raid. I'm going to talk about the raid in the next segment, but there is John Solomon is reporting that in the documents that were submitted to the court to justify the Mar-a-Lago raid, there was a CBS Miami article called "Moving Trucks Spotted at Mar-a-Lago." So think about this. This is a local CBS station spotting moving trucks. They don't know what's in the moving trucks. They just see moving trucks. And the FBI goes, oh, judge, you need to give us a warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago because who knows what's in those moving trucks? As if to say that Mar-a-Lago, a huge operation that conducts golfing events, can't have moving trucks at Mar-a-Lago without the FBI thinking that this is probable cause. Probable cause for what? So we're beginning to see here how bogus this operation is and how thin the FBI's justification is for doing the raid. But more importantly, the election interference, I think, is a very serious matter. Now, there are several Republican senators who have now demanded of the FBI, we need the names of all the FBI agents who were instructing other agents, but also instructing Facebook, that somehow the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. And let's remember, this wasn't just a couple of FBI agents. You remember the 50 so-called intelligence officials, very prominent names, head of the CIA and so on. All these guys affirming, even though they're in a position to know better, that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. They were basically lying, and lying. All of the lying is for the same purpose. All of the lying is to make sure that Trump doesn't get elected. Trump, by the way, is not surprisingly all over this. He put out a statement. So now it comes out conclusively that the FBI buried the Hunter Biden laptop story before the election, all caps. And he goes on to say, this is massive fraud and election interference at a level never before seen in our country. And I think this is a case where it's hard to disagree.